She expects him to cover her car loan, but he's not having it. Watch what happens when entitlement meets a hard no. This one gets crazy. Let's get into it.
It's not your car. I co-signed the car for you. The difference. I co-signed the car for you. Do you know what that means? No. In the car. Hey, you ain't been paying the car note. I don't care what's gonna work.
I'm here to tell you right now. We don't care.
Oh my God.
Just call the police. Man, it's not worth it to argue over this situation.
Yo, listen. When you co-sign a car with somebody, you don't pay the car note. You affect the other person's credit. You are affecting my credit score. My credit score is going down.
Jesus Christ.
So basically, they were both supposed to pay for the car, but since he was the only one, it must belong to him at this point.
My credit score is down 27 points because of you. You ain't paid the car note in 3 months. You ain't paid it in 3 months. I'm not paying it. Man, now I'm your man. Now I'm your man. No, but she ain't been answering the phone.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
Not only was she avoiding payment for 3 months, but went silent on him too.
You don't even answer the phone. That's part of the reason why the car getting repoed. Like, you listen, man, like, listen, nigga, you ain't been paying the car note. You don't answer the phone, you don't communicate.
Are you crazy?
What the hell?
Man, get off the car. Get off the hood of the car. What are you doing?
This looks like a scene from a scary movie.
What are you doing? You crazy, man. You toxic, man. You so toxic.
If you've ever seen the movie The Ring, I think is what it was, where they watch the video and the girl crawls out of the TV. Yeah, that's what this woman, yeah, that's why he made the statement. It looks like a movie out of a scary movie. Because the way she's crawling across the hood is similar to the girl crawling out of the television. Which, on a trivial note, the second version of the movie was filmed in Astoria, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you previously, but an individual I know, Lamar Black, was telling me that when they were filming a scene near where he lived, he said, I've lived there for, my adult life or something like that. And this is 20 years ago, so forgive me for not remembering exactly how he said it. And he said, it's never looked spooky, but I go out there that night with their fog machine and their lights, and it looked spooky. So there was that anecdote. And then Rob Dupree, who was the police chief at the time, had stated that there were additional scenes that had to be filmed in Los Angeles, so they purchased basic model patrol cars and then had them painted up with Astoria's colors and decals, emblems, badges, so forth. And I believe it was 2 patrol cars, and I don't know if it was more than 2 badges that were required. But Rob was telling me that after production was done, they contacted his office and stated that they had no need for Astoria patrol cars in, Southern California. That if they would send somebody to pick them up, the city could acquire them for no fee. So 2 officers were dispatched to Southern California and drove the patrol cars back to Astoria, Oregon. So, I don't know, with The Ring and Goonies and Kindergarten Cop, the movie with the robot that says, number 5, I'm alive, Short Circuit, that's the one. And the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think it was number 3. There for a period of time in the late 80s to mid 90s, Astoria was a popular place or movies being filmed. Anyway, I've always found that to be a nice bit of trivia. Um, the reality of Astoria is that it is literally the end of the earth. If we're to believe, that society, civilization began in the Crescent Valley, the Mesopotamian region, the Tigris, Euphrates rivers, the Crescent Valley. If we're to believe society, civilization began there and migrated, from there to Egypt, north into Europe, and then into North America, and as it kept advancing westward, Astoria is the end of the earth. There is no further west you really can go. Oh, but you could go to Guam or Hawaii, or you could keep going and you'd be back in the east, but in essence you'd be back where you originated. Now, my suspicions are that civilization began even before that. I've made references about the Indus Valley being the inspiration for the Crescent Valley civilization. But my friend, before he died, stated something about a Chinese ideogram. Three people on a boat. And I can't remember exactly how he described it, but he was a very devout Christian man, and he spent a good part of his day reading his Bible, and this was a lifelong pursuit for him. In fact, I think it was the actual motivation for him to learn to read was to read the various Bibles. But he was describing the Chinese ideogram, which predates the Crescent Valley, which predates the Indus Valley, or the Fertile Crescent rather, the Fertile Crescent and the Indus Valley. And he found that ideogram for the three individuals on the boat very compelling, and I told him that everything moves east to west, and that everything that we have originated in the east and has migrated its way westward. But going back to the Astoria being the end of the world, I talked to somebody long ago who was a mental health specialist, and they stated that people came from all areas, whether it's the United States, North America, or just around the world, and they would end up in Astoria. In the early to mid 80s, Southern Oregon had a religious compound called Rajneeshpuram that set up camp and overran the community of Antelope, Oregon, so much so that they got their members elected into positions of the governing board, and their numbers swelled enough that they were able to petition to have the name Antelope changed to Rajneesh. And that was done for a short period of time. That they were disbanded. He fled and was apprehended in North Carolina in an effort to return to India. And the individuals had nowhere to go, so they migrated north to Eugene, Corvallis, Salem, Portland, and Astoria. So when you're looking at these political maps of Oregon, and you're looking at it as to, for what reason is Oregon so wackaloo? You cannot ask the question without putting into your factorization impact of the cult members of the Rajneeshpuram and what happened to them after their disbandment in Antelope, Oregon, as they migrated to Portland and Astoria. And as this mental health counselor told me, where else can you go? You cannot go any further west. Therefore, it is, in a lot of individuals' minds, it is the end of the world. It's the edge of the world. No other place you can go without being submerged in the ocean. So I thought maybe you'd be interested in that piece of trivia as he describes this woman crawling across the hood. But also keep this in mind as he's describing it. Never, ever align yourself with someone who has more to gain from your loss. This man is stating he's taking back the car to which he co-signed. She's adamant, you bought it for me. There's a massive reality disconnect. There's a saying, there is no such thing as a free lunch. If you sign a contract, you need to be prepared to be on the hook as if you are the only one responsible for that contract. And you have to be prepared that you're going to be told you are not allowed access to the benefits of making that contract. And if that's the case, there is no reason to enter into such a contract. Be responsible for yourself. No reason to tie a millstone around yourself or an albatross or whichever statement you seem as applicable. There is no reason at all in which to weigh yourself down with another person's immaturity.
You toxic.
Far away from me to keep back from me. Police! Police! Help! Police!
I wouldn't put up with someone constantly demanding, competitive, and argumentative all the time. It's draining. Choose your partner wisely, everyone.
These are my new winter boots. Are you kidding? These are so cute. I could definitely rock these with some, like...
Damn, that's awkward.
Or something.
That's awkward. My ex had those. She used to rock them with this puffer North Face jacket all the time.
What? Like, how do you remember all that? Like, what?
Oh my god, Ellie, that's Lilo and Stitch.
Yes, it's...
Oh, that was my ex's favorite movie. We used to watch that all the
Like-
time. What?
Like, why do you have to ruin everything? Gotcha.
What? What are you talking about?
Who the hell cares?
She used to do 2 things of sugar, I remember. Fresh vanilla creamer. What was it? 1 packet of...
This is not...
My ex literally had the same thing. I don't know why you keep picking out the same thing she had. It's
How
amazing.
the hell did she have this? It's a white blanket.
She had a white one. Yo, what the... Where...
It's in your boss. You can go back to your ex. Ain't no kidding
Oh,
her.
you gonna kick me
That's
off?
one thing. That's one thing.
We're meant to be anyway.
What a funny yet a smart way to avoid buying useless things all the time.
If you weren't picking up on what was being put down there, essentially, she wanted to go on a shopping spree, and every item that lit up her face with greed, he immediately took the dullest needle and popped her balloon. My ex loved or had that exact item, from coffee cups to blankets to hiking boots. Keep that in mind. If somebody is sponging off of you and is attempting to use emotional and financial manipulation, number one, you can have fun to undo it. And number two, just go away from them. They've, when people tell you who they are, believe them. If they have no character, no integrity, no honor, whatever, believe them and don't look back. Without getting religious, there's the story of Lot, whose wife turned her head back to look, she turned into a pillar of salt. That, in my opinion, is what this is referencing, is those who are attempting to better their lives, but still look back with fondness, the decadence, the vice, still wanting to be a part of that lifestyle. You have to make a clean break and not look back. I mean, if you've acquired skills, that's one thing. But to look back on the actions and the connection that you forged in immorality, criminality, whatever the situation, then you're not truly moving on and growing.
You gonna phone the whole day? You gonna phone the whole day? And pass your food. And pass your food.
Nice. She caused a scene just because he didn't want to pay for her. And it's crazy how she demanded it.
I'm not paying for your food. You gonna phone the whole day?
Go get them.
You gonna phone the whole day,
The
man?
lady is at the door. Go get her.
You gonna phone the whole day?
It's weird. You know I got work to do.
Are you delusional? Do you suffer from a mental illness? Do you think you do?
Where are you going?
Get these boys take around.
You
These guys.
done got the whole
Go,
problem.
man. Go, man.
That's what you did. That's what you did. You should have paid for the food. Then you got
They
to
don't
pay
have to
for
change that
the
thing, man.
Oh, hell no! It's the worst thing that can happen on a date, and I wouldn't want to imagine it.
Hey, you sorry, but are you sorry enough to get off the phone? You've been on the phone the whole damn day.
I beg your pardon.
The whole day.
Someone who's on their phone while on a date with you is the ultimate sign of disrespect and rudeness.
Phone in the beginning of the date. You gonna phone in the middle of the date?
What the hell is wrong with you?
You on the phone in the end of the date?
This guy is either making skits showing these situations, or is the unluckiest guy who ends up with ladies who act this way.
Stayed on the phone the whole day.
You got a phone. Hey, you sorry, but are you sorry enough to get off the phone? You've been on the phone the whole damn day. The whole day. I spent $350 on this date, and you've been on the phone the whole damn day.
I don't like where this is going.
The whole day you've been on the phone.
Well, be interesting. Why are you yelling at me?
Just direct.
Never ever spend $300 or more on a date. Don't even spend $100 on a date. I am of the mind that spending any money on a date expresses a level of neediness. Now, it's one thing to go out, as you're walking through the park and, oh look, there's a pretzel vendor, and you buy some pretzels. And then, a little while longer, there is an ice cream vendor, and the other one buys the ice cream. And if there's that back and forth, that's different. In fact, you you can look at something such as that as, oh, the one bought the coffee for both, and the other bought the ice cream or the slice of pie for each, whatever happens to be the next stop. But if there is that dynamic, that back and forth, you serve, they serve, then that's different. Because, you got to be real. You got to have money to function in society in terms of paying your bills and, acquiring your resources. And part of that is attest that you have the means to do those tasks. But in today's age of equality, now remember, it was Biden's White House that sent out the X post prior to the official end of his presidency that the Equal Rights Amendment is now law. It's not, because that requires a different act than just a post on social media, but in reality, we have lived in such an age of equality that saying of, equality feels like oppression to those who were privileged. It's a great form of a litmus test to gauge whether this is somebody. It's easier to lose $10 than it is $350. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. If you put out $10 for a cup of coffee and they don't reciprocate by countering a pretzel or a slice of pie or even a single scoop ice cream cone, then move on and cut your losses at $10. No reason to throw good money after bad. And that is a reference to investing, where you put, let's say you buy a stock for $500, but instead of cutting your losses as it underperforms, you keep dumping money into it. Hence, good money after bad. So, anyway, something to keep in mind. Never ever spend triple digits on a date. In fact, I would hazard that with today's current, I just bought a set of light bulbs for somebody to do their, well, I didn't buy it, they bought them. I just went to the store and got the light bulbs for their headlamp on their vehicle. 5 years ago, for my vehicle, less than $15 for an entire headlamp assembly. This light bulb, which isn't the super duper monster LEDs, mega bright, this was your standard Sylvania, $42. So, inflation exists. I'm aware of that. So, if a cup of coffee is $5, be willing, if you're willing to spend $10 on yours and their cup of coffee, and if they're willing to do the same for, I keep saying the ice cream cone because it's summertime, then, go with it. But if they're not willing to reciprocate, cut your losses, move on.
Address that you don't appreciate it, and if they keep at it, respectfully walk away.
What you mean be interested? Why you at me? Why would I yell at you? You've been on the phone the whole freaking day.
And what are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna walk out.
Phone bill, so it's not even that big of a deal.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
Boy, it ain't gonna pay this, and ain't gonna pay for this food bill either.
Yes, you are. Where you going?
Bro, what are you talking about, man? Take it.
Get your hands off me.
Stop. Take a seat. All right. Let's not make it.
American? Yeah. Okay.
This lady was most likely drunk, but good thing this officer stepped in at the right time.
What are you doing?
Are you crazy?
What are you doing? Are you
No, Nelson. You have to.
I said she's gonna be paid back.
Yeah, break me down.
Hey, you're going in cuffs now because you wanna act off from
No.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on!
So turn around.
I was around very well.
Where?
I always wonder why adults put themselves in situations like this. It's embarrassing.
Hello? Hello? All right, we're gonna be ladylike. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, okay, by the way.
Oh, so well.
Right. Yeah, you gotta make it tight, right?
Yep, that's just absolutely
All
it.
for proud American. I am.
You serious?
Right. Yeah, you gotta make it tight, right?
She will even try to flirt with the cops, but to her surprise, it won't work.
Before they get too far into it, she's made reference about American, more than once. whether or not this woman is drunk, I don't know for certain. I'm presuming she is. But she's making reference to somebody being a proud American, whether it's her or whether it's the law enforcement or the other individual. I don't know, nor do I care. But another litmus test which you can use in identifying people is in social media posts over the last year. There's been a growing awareness of something called covert feminism, and people such as Laura Ingraham and Tommy Lauren have been called out for their covert feminism. Infamously, Tommy Lauren opened her mouth and revealed to the world how brain dead stupid she is. And I mean, come on, America. I don't know who gave her a job. I never followed her. I never had much interest in her because I always found her to be a bleach blonde bimbo. But many of you have. It's way past time that you separate what you perceive to be a quote-unquote pretty face from ideology. The right wing and the right wing groups, Republicans and libertarians and the religious are infested with covert feminists, and those are the most destructive, most dangerous of all, because the other side of the aisle, it's very clear their misandry, their feminist ideology, their just outright bigotry and hatred towards men and boys. But it's on the right that guise it in traditionalism. But all it is a manipulation tactic to use certain phrases, certain key words to light up your amygdala, to get you to lower your guard. So be aware of this stuff. So when somebody such as Andrew Wilson calls out Tommy Lauren for being a covert feminist, don't just laugh and nod your head in agreement. Analyze what is being dissected and learn to recognize it in those that you interact with or would like to interact.
All for proud Americans. I am all about the Americans. I am. Donald Trump is like my do whatever's better.
Okay.
It's fine. You can push me.
Hey, check that out. So she not only just reinforced the proud American, then she goes on to just essentially do the call out to anybody on the right that, as I was just describing, Donald Trump can do whatever. Alright. Men, boys, be honest with yourselves. If a marginally attractive woman was presenting herself to you in such a manner, you know you would fold. And I'm advising you to build some resilience, some fortitude to recognize when that is happening. This ties into previous call-outs for statement analysis, forensic statement analysis, that when you start learning how to dissect written word, written statement, you'll be able to pick up on these nuances in spoken language also. It's not as written, obviously, is a written record that you can refer to, whereas spoken is real time, and you have to be trained enough and paying attention enough to pick up on it. But that's what's going on. She's dropping these, what would somebody might describe as green flag words, green flag statements that are essentially emotional keys that unlock your barriers to make you more susceptible to her manipulation. And it's not just limited to women. It's just women, that is their modus operandi, MO, mode of operation.
I'm not even, you're walking ahead. You don't have that shoes on.
I know, right?
Man, just stay still. Just stay still.
So you're pretty. Thank you.
Listen, you're on camera. Just remind
Oh
yourself.
my God, I am.
Just remind yourself that anything that you say, anything that you're doing is going to be used against
I wonder how she would feel watching this one sober.
you.
Because I don't care.
What, teacher? I'm using the restroom. There's a guy going in there. Well, I'm taking a poop. I don't know. Circle is real, and you guys can't even hear me in there? Hello? I'm taking a... What are you talking about? I hope y'all, I don't know what happened out.
Please don't give fast food workers a hard time. I don't know what she wants them to do. It's not their job to watch over the bathroom.
Now,
Number one, bro.
a guy walking the...
Yes.
Shut up.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way.
It's not okay. You wash your hands right down and have a tiny regulation. I was in there, I was your back. He ate food. I want your name, everybody else, what's your name?
Ma'am, did you lock the door?
Shut up, that is locked. Shut up.
A few moments later.
Oh. She called you a monkey, bro. Oh.
I really hope her work sees this because none of what she did was acceptable.
I'm not shit, dude.
What the this piece of
Well, did you all notice, Karen, how she threw her bag on the floor like she was about to tussle, but later reconsidered?
Got him! Got him!
Adults acting like children will always confuse me.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. I was wondering if you would mind moving your car for a second, like 5 minutes.
How come?
The lighting is just really good here, and I'm an influencer, and I have like a lot of followers,
I'm here to tell you right now. We don't care.
and I need to film something, and the lighting is just like really good here. So if you wouldn't mind, like 5
I
minutes.
just spent
maybe.
10 minutes trying to get this
I
spot.
know, but there's like more like down there. It's just like the lighting is just like really good here.
But if I go down there, then I gotta walk all the way back up here.
Yeah, but like I like need this spot. And like you're the only person that's in your car, like I would just really appreciate it. Like I have like a lot of thoughts.
I can relate to this. I returned from being gone all day yesterday, and I go to park, and my neighbor's guest is taking up 2 spots. And it's like, I can make an issue of it, or I can just park and be done with it. So, I park, because I mean, what am I going to do? Block them or whatever? If it keeps happening, I'm going to make an issue of it, but the amusing part hasn't been described yet. So, because it ties into this obnoxious, I'm an influencer, and, I don't know how much time went by, if it was an hour after their guest had left, or whatever. Long story short, a former neighbor of mine stated that they saw this other neighbor, have an OnlyFans account apparently, and I've never looked into it to know if this is true. I never asked if they had, where's your evidence to back this up? I dismissed it, but I've just cataloged it in the back of my mind for the last few years. Because every now and then, I will see on my security camera this woman doing weird, the stupid TikTok dance stuff with her phone on the car and dancing in front of the phone. It's just mid-20s woman who acts like she's 13. She's mentally handicapped. But that being said, I was doing something last night, and of course, when there's movement on a camera, it catches my attention. Lo and behold, she's doing the gorilla twerking thing, and that's not in itself, it's disgusting, but she's fat, and she's doing the gorilla twerk, and there are children on this property that she, doesn't give a damn about. It's like she doesn't care about what kind of behavior she's exhibiting, because she's emotionally immature. The world revolves around her, that type of mentality. Anyway, so this whole social influencer thing, whether it's in the gym or whether it's a parking spot, I have no issue with somebody who has an artistic desire to be creative. But most of the greatest artists worked in a studio, a dance studio, a sculpting studio, a painting studio, not in public facilities of which to act out and suggestive behaviors that are akin to animal mating rituals.
Followers, and it's like for a brand deal.
Are you delusional? Do you suffer from a mental illness? Do you think you do?
Man,
And
I don't care.
I never understand how some of these influencers think they're better than everyone else. It's selfish.
They appreciate
Nothing
it.
about your followers or how many followers
I
you got.
could follow you back on Instagram.
I don't think so.
I don't care about that.
I need to film a brand deal, and I just need the lighting here, please.
No.
I literally
Even 5 minutes.
no, because that just doesn't make any sense. You're not entitled to take my spot.
But I am.
I am.
You're not entitled to take my spot. Oh, but I am. There has to be a line firmly drawn that states that harassment, as legally defined, is going to be prosecuted no matter how stupid the simpish cops are going to behave. And yes, Scappoose, Oregon's police department is extraordinarily simpish. I saw Stephen Barnes a year ago. Every August has a movies in the park. I saw this 350-pound cop stalking a woman, harassing her. Or I walked by the park to go to the grocery store. I did my shopping. I walked back. So we're talking in the course of 30 minutes to 45 minutes, roughly. I observed him because he's a very gargantuan police officer that's very identifiable, and he's an idiot. And I don't want to waste time getting into my reasons behind how come he's stupid. But let's put it down to, I'm at City Hall, attending a City Hall meeting in January, where it's dark, and it's wet, and it's rainy, and he sees my flashlight, and he grabs his gun. Yeah, that's how stupid of an imbecile he is. So anyway, here's Barnes at the movies in the park, stalking this woman. Yeah, it's not there. It is. Picture a woman if she had a leash, and she's walking doing her thing, and he is at 3 feet distance of a leash away the whole time. Because as I'm walking by, I observe, my peripheral vision, I observe the distance, and I see that it is her leading her actions, and it's him following as a lovelorn puppy dog nonsense. And it was disgusting, because, that's harassment. That is unacceptable, and unacceptable from a quote-unquote law enforcement potentially criminal elements within its ranks. And I'm not saying Barnes is criminal. I am saying that his behavior is questionable, maybe even bordering on unethical, that would be subject for evaluation. And that all being said, this isn't just him. This is police departments around the country. When it comes to being a responder, they will defer to their feminist training and just, oh, she's just being a girl. No, she's an adult woman who's acting in a, improperly. And the law must be applied as if it were equal. And I've made reference before about the Eastern European police officer that I knew in Seattle who had described that how Americans do it is backwards. They automatically, believe the woman, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when he would respond, what did you say to provoke him? Why did you keep doing that behavior to provoke him, knowing that this would be the result? They would call out her initiation of the bad act. And a lot of people will be like, but words! Oh my gosh, sticks and stones break my bones, but words, no, 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 no. That is wonderful as children to learn how to develop emotional boundaries and barriers, and to recognize when to let it roll off your back. But as adults, there is a certain level of accountability that needs to be addressed, and that is if you're doing the finger, just a quarter inch above you, I'm not touching you as you're wagging your finger. That's still invading your personal space, and that is a provocation, that is an escalation, and those actions need to be addressed and treated.
Glad he wasn't a simp and let her take advantage of him.
Your father and your mother's lifestyle wouldn't be good enough for you.
It's crazy. Me and my dad talk about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It would be good, but it's average. You just said middle class. Are you living a middle class lifestyle?
Because the fact of the matter, you called your father average. You said
I said
they
middle
are
class.
average. You said they're average.
I said
You
middle
said your parents.
class.
That's the most disrespectful thing to call a parent, and I can't imagine his reaction when the dad sees this.
You said your mother and father are average. You entitled. I swear to God, that's the final straw with me, lady. Gotcha. You said that they're middle class and that's average. As a high school graduate selling bundles, I hope your father never hears what you said. I hope he doesn't hear it. Because that's insulting. They provided you with something that you don't even think. You look at that man who's sacrificing, that woman who sacrificed, and you just everything that they said.
If she knew the true value of what her parents sacrificed, she wouldn't have said that.
In front of thousands of people.
Oh, hell no.
I don't like where this is going.
Oh my God! Frank, you're with this. He doesn't want me or you to have equality. Oh my God! Go pray for me.
Stop it. Get some help. Just because a guy has different political views doesn't give her the right to do this. And she even tried to turn his wife against him.
Watch me get sit down.
To put it in perspective, this is an enormous woman who is blocking the people in. You know how a lot of restaurants will have the stone pillars, stone archways, to create the illusion of separate spaces. So this woman is resting her hand on one pillar, blocking the exit of the table because it's against the window, and she's blocking the ability of anybody to exit or enter. And she's easily 300 plus pounds. I can barely see the other individual that she's blocking. I can see their head over her shoulder. That is how wide of an individual this woman exists. That being said, my chickens appear to be wide, but that's because they are attempting to steal the limelight. And, you know, I don't know about you, but when I hear certain things, certain words, there's a call to turn on Rush and just crank up the volume, whether it is limelight or, of course, their most famous, Tom Sawyer. But yeah, I find it amusing how the novelty of the camera always grabs their attention to the point of, look at me, look at me, look at me. You can see nothing but my my shadowed feathers. You know. In reality, what it is because the way the indoor setup is arranged, I leave the front door open in the morning so that they're able to see daylight, and they're very captivated by the outside, by daylight. And I found this with cats. They enjoy basking in the sun, they enjoy being outside, but the chickens, as soon as the door opened, even after, they first came to be with me, as soon as they could, they gravitated towards daylight. I keep that heat lamp there for their health, their warmth, but they will still choose daylight over the heat lamp a good amount of the time. And they certainly like using their beaks. I have corrugated cardboard on the mezzanine because it's wire, and I have that on there to protect their feet because just open wire isn't, I've been told, isn't good for their feet. They need something solid. So they have used their beaks to puncture the cardboard, and they've made an opening that isn't quite big enough for them to go through because it's two racks that stretch across the width of the coop. But I'm gonna have to put another piece of cardboard for these crazy ladies to keep them from getting stuck and falling through. So, anyways, I wanted a distraction because I don't know how long ago this was, but attempting to shame somebody because somebody doesn't want me to have rights, blah, 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 you should feel bad because, no. Again, this ties into equality feels as if it were oppression to those who have been treated with privilege.
You're going to say, get out! You're not welcome here! You don't want these people here! You're not welcome! No, you want me to make sure. Meanwhile, thank you, sir.
Well.
So what has happened is this woman was illegally detaining them to go on her angry rant. Oh, but it's freedom of speech. You don't have a right to, for lack of a better word, kidnap somebody to hold them hostage. And that is what was happening here. She was blocking the exit to go on her rant, her tirade. And now the police have entered. Whether they arrest her, whether they cite her, I'm not certain, but this is what needs to be done, and that is bad actors must be held to account for their bad actions. If it's not done, you're going to see vigilantism that has been sparking up in places such as Italy of people looking and saying to themselves, government is corrupt, and those who aren't corrupt are impotent. We've seen it in America with the judges giving people such as Angela Yurimova and Emily Nutley these sweetheart deals, after abusing people. So, unless this trend turns around, it's only going to get worse. And as it gets worse, people are going to distance themselves from others that they know are bad actors or they suspect of being bad actors. And it will spark a level of contempt that inspires vigilantism. And whether your images of vigilantism are romantic in the, oh, I finally get to be Batman, to the reality of regulators, mount up, let's go on a spree. It doesn't, vigilantism never has a happy ending. I mean, maybe there are examples of it providing a happy ending, but most likely what happens is it's a scatter effect that ends up taking out people who are not part of the problem. Oh, but if you're not part of the, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. That's very binary thinking, and we are all susceptible to that. But actions have to be metered. So, if the police and the judges, and whatnot, and the corrupt government officials across the board don't get their act together, they're going to find themselves having their act cut up.
It's so satisfying to see the cops taking care of these people. Well. People should respect each other's opinions. And just because someone has a different side than you gives you no right to be violent toward them. She or anyone deserves the same amount of respect as she shows others.
Oh, I just dropped my phone. It would be such a shame if the hot guy in front of me could put his phone number in and pick it up.
Where you from? Here? From around here?
Why don't you come find out?
Where I look like I come from?
What do you want me to say?
Anything.
These nuts? You asked for it.
Alright, yeah, no. I'll give you one more chance.
I really see no point in this, but I'm not mad at the guy. I'm disappointed for giving his attention to someone who was using him for content.
Okay, I'll see you soon. Nice to meet you. Are we broken up? Is that it?
You don't think they go friends?
No, they're all pooping.
Tell them to come when they're done.
Okay, don't worry. I'll make sure they go do it.
Well, I'm out, man.
The only way to stop this content is to not indulge in it.
What are you thinking of that?
Would he cheat on you with your twin sister? I'm sorry.
That sounded personal. Wait. Oh. How did y'all get over that?
We're just twins. It's okay. He's now
What do you mean by that?
dating a girl that looks like both of us. It's scary. Yeah.
I didn't realize y'all were twins until like I realized. Ew.
My only question is why her twin sister would let her boyfriend cheat with her. She really needs to have a deeper conversation with her sister.
Aggressively picking up
Are you scared? Like, what's up? Why are you scared of me? I'm Jade. What's up? Nice to meet you. Are you single?
Yeah.
Okay. You're single. You don't have a girlfriend?
Nah, I'm just kidding.
You have a girlfriend? Are you down to have another girlfriend?
No, thank you.
No?
Rejected.
That rejection, but more of a reality check.
I took my girlfriend's phone and locked myself in the car.
Why are you taking it? Give it to me.
Oh.
Give it to me.
No, what is this?
Give me now. Give me now. If you don't stop right now, I'm breaking up with you.
What?
Give me my phone.
I'm going to your phone and broke up with you. Why are you so mad? No.
I'm going to. Give me my phone right now.
No, I'm about to put the mail in.
I wonder what's in that phone that would make an adult act this way.
Stop. Give me.
Relax.
Give me.
Are you delusional? Do you suffer from a mental illness? Do you think you do?
If you're involved with anybody that is an adult who behaves in such a manner, you see what that chicken was doing? She was doing toe taps. She was using, where you stand upright and you bend at the waist and you touch your toes. She wasn't using her wings, she was using her beak. That was silly chicken. Man, these ladies are just bizarro funny. Anyway, if you are interacting with an individual that behaves in such a manner, remove yourself from that interaction. They are that anybody who's had children or been around children knows that is how entitled, spoiled children behave when they're throwing a temper tantrum. That in an adult that's, that whining, squealing voice is disgusting.
No.
Everyone's watching. Did you look at me?
Stay back.
I can only assume that this relationship is over.
Wait, what you saw? Wait, hold up. Wait, what you saw? What's going on?
Why are you texting my dad? Your dad?
What kind of animal are you?
It literally says...
Wait, that's her dad?
Yeah.
That's your dad?
That's her dad.
What?
It literally says Michael.
That's her dad. You know...
That's why I got your phone on my head now.
No. Why texting her dad? Yo, keep it. Yo, grab it. Get the... Yo, look. Look, I want you to...
No.
Yo, I want you to...
So he's paying for you to come down for spring break.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Why her dad out of all the people in the world? It's just wrong to do her friend like that. But don't get me wrong. I'm not defending the dad.
Oh, that's a cash
I
out.
him a couple nights ago. Letting you cash out.
Yo, actually, how about this?
You're texting my dad. He's married, bro. He's married, bro.
He's married. He's happily married. He's happily married with a kid. She belongs to the street.
She didn't only ruin the friendship, but also that family.
I can't just call her on there and ask him for it.
If this is a repeat of a retelling, I apologize. I don't like to repeat things that have been told, more than, because if it's been told to you, I feel that I'm wasting your time. I had a renter that I found out after the fact that in order for them to make money, and she was in a relationship with an individual, and long story short, in order to pay the water bill or something, I can't remember exactly, but it was something that that needed to be paid, but it wasn't a tremendous amount of money. She was contacted by her mother's boyfriend that he would pay for a car for her to rent, the gas, and for her time, as in horizontal Mamba stuff, and the return trip that would have covered the water bill. So we're talking about probably two to three times the actual expense because of when you factor all of that in. Anyway, these occurrences happen more frequent than people recognize. And if you listen to them long enough, they will tell on themselves. You have to have a certain level of value and a certain ability to draw out the information from them. I know another individual who was in a similar situation, but it was the reverse. It was their significant, their boyfriend, that was hooking up with the mother. And to me, I hear these things and I can't exit the room fast enough, Just like Radney Foster and Hank Williams, the running kind. Every front door found me hoping that I'd find the back door open moment. I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not sticking around for this nonsense. You can see me, if you've seen me leave, I did it wrong. I want to get out of here as rapidly and as invisibly as possible.
Discount.
No, can you tell me the kid that just got out of the hospital, that's all that's in the hospital, also about to go back to the hospital on the spot, and one of the only things you wanted to do is to come here and get those shoes. Can you tell him that?
No, I appreciate that, but it's also not a thing where I can just, give them very big I can't just call his phone about stuff like that. No. Listen, what I'm going to say is,
posted on wherever.
No, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, I hate to put you in this position right now, but what I'm going to tell you is this. I'm the closest thing to it, and I don't bother him for things like that because he has a lot of stuff going on.
Going to a store and demanding a discount for no reason is just childish, especially if the store refuses and you stay persistent.
Not to say that that's not important to him, but what I'm going to say to you is that I can't just, if I could just give everyone in the world...
And the other store wanted to give us a big discount.
We do not care.
Then I think that would be good.
It's not normal. That trick is old school. When you tell someone that the next store has a better deal, so tell them to go there instead.
Owner is here.
Well, the owner's not here. I think if they're going to give you a big discount over there, I would just go to them. The 3rd Street Corner is 5 minutes away. If they want to give you a big discount, beautiful.
I don't even think of say what shoes you want. You just don't want to.
I just can't give I can't on demand just give somebody a big discount. I mean, that's true. You're kind of demanding me to call the owner to give him a big discount.
I'm requesting under the circumstances, yes.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
This guy handled the situation brilliantly. It's just sad that she doesn't understand that it's not in his hands, and it could cost him his job if he does so.
Don't put your hands on my stuff!
A woman who sat in a priority seat on a train refused to remove her Louis Vuitton bag for passengers to sit. I don't know what a priority seat, what that means. Is that a designation for somebody who is handicapped or disabled to be able to access because of mobility issues? Is it a upgraded ticket seating? First class versus business and consumer. I don't know, but if there is designated seating, your luggage, and yes, a handbag, a purse, or whatever, is luggage, for lack of a better word, does not need its own seat. You don't spread yourself out. Now, granted, I spread myself out at the park because when I arrived at the park last night, I was the only one at the park last night. The Boy Scouts, which, interestingly enough, was primarily boys. So, good on them. The leaders were 2 women, which, good on them for stepping up. Men of the community, where are you? Granted, there were fathers there. I don't know what is the reason that they weren't leading, but the fact there was a fraternal opportunity for these young boys to gather and achieved their merit badges. Outstanding, gentlemen. Continue your work. When I arrived at the park, I used the, I'll use the library's Wi-Fi to upload this video. For example, my internet is being funky here lately. That's what happens when I download the Spider-Man vs. Venom animated from the 80s that turned out to be 6 gigabytes off of Internet Archive. So my internet connection is punishing me for such an act. That being said, I go to the park, I sit on the bench, use the Wi-Fi to upload the previous videos for Saturday and Sunday, and so this is Friday night that this happened. The Boy Scouts show up, and I had my notepad and another device seated next to me on the bench, but if I had shown up and there were other people, I wouldn't have spread myself out so thin, or so wide, rather. I would have kept everything contained. But since I was already there for about 45 minutes prior to them arriving, yeah. But typically, when it comes to something such as public transportation, and the other part is, it was a park. It wasn't people were needing to sit down. There were plenty of other places to sit, and it was the playground portion of the park so the kids could play, and that is where the majority of the activity was focused. So I didn't feel bad, but in this situation where people are needing the space, your luggage doesn't get its own separate seat. And if somebody had wanted it, needed it, I would have been more than happy to not only have provided the spot, why they'd want to sit next to me, I have no idea. I have no doubt there was no interest to sit next to me anyway, so there's also that reason for not having any, shame, guilt, whatever. But let's see what happens with this woman.
You don't want to be like this.
Oh, and there's the big difference. I had no issue should somebody be sitting next to me, because all I was doing was waiting for files to upload and files to download and check my email. This woman is just on public transportation and is expressly saying, I don't want anybody sitting next to me. I understand a desire for separation, for personal space, but when you're on public transportation, you surrender that.
This is disgusting. This is awful in every way.
Standing room only. No, there's not.
Ma'am, put it up there. All I can do is
Alright, let's get new rap or new feel for the 80s.
I'm gonna get you off the train.
This lady took the seat next to her and wouldn't let people sit, putting her bag there instead. And I think it's a result of bad parenting.
Back train in New Jersey, because this woman refused to move her designer purse from a seat to allow someone else to sit.
It's pretty difficult to put into words
how
disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
Chicken. Now chicken.
This lady just lost it. And watch what happened next.
There.
The law system should set an example of people who act like this in public, because it can harm innocent people nearby.
Yep.
think guys realize how crucial this is, but if a girl does something you don't like, if she's being shady, or if she's just being plain mean, you can walk away.
Absolutely.
This is really hard for guys because girls do it all the time, but it is a superpower that...
What she's saying is absolutely correct. And in fact, it is something that needs to become more... Here's the bottom line. Walking away is a power move. Your willingness to separate yourself demonstrates a level of self-respect that is lost by accepting bad behavior. In order to correct bad behavior, there has to be consequence. Whether or not they're capable as an adult to process that it is their bad behavior, if they're willing to accept correction that, hey, I left because you were behaving bad, and give them an opportunity to correct themselves, if they're adult, they can handle that.
A guy has is that you can walk away if you're not feeling it or if she's doing something that you don't like. And 9 out of 10 times, if you walk away, she's going to come back even stronger because she's not used to guys doing this. Most guys just simp for her. She's used to getting her way. She throws a tantrum, gets what she wants. But if you're not that guy, she's going to be attracted to that because she's going to be like, oh my gosh, I cannot play games with this guy because he's serious and he'll just leave me.
Some guys are...
When you hear people discussing holding frame, that is what they're referring to. Holding frame means that you're holding steady to a core set of principles, a core set of values that aren't going to be rocked. And that means in how you conduct yourself, how you conduct your business, and how you allow others to treat you. So when you hear somebody say, you need to hold your frame, this is what it's in reference. For me, I have a code of, which I follow. And it's not a regimented code, but it is a code nonetheless that says I will not be mistreated. I will stand up for myself. And that is what you have to incorporate for yourself also.
In denial, and they try to fix something that isn't their fault, while they can walk away and gain the power back. Well, guys, that was all for today. We'll be back soon.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Memes of the Week. The best thing you can do for this channel is smash that like button on this video like it's a free transition Ellen page, so the video reaches a wider audience. And now on with the memes. Number one, here's the difference between when you first meet her and when you get to know her. The one on the right looks like she's way more fun and bad, but we all know that bipolar babes be dangerous. Also, Harley Quinn might be a dirty, tatted up psycho, but at least she's loyal, which is saying a lot these days. Even still, she's going to nag, and I die.
That is something that if you look at it, since Paul Dini created the Harley Quinn character for the original Batman the Animated Series, she was originally she was supposed to be a one-off, if I remember correctly. Her character was, what if the Joker had instead of a henchman, had a henchwoman? Thus, Harleen Quinzel came to be. It was supposed to be a one-off, but it was, she immediately appealed to the fan base and expanded from there. But in the, nearly 30 years that her character has been in existence, she's been very devoted, no matter what the Joker's antics, very devoted to the abuses. So what he's referring to is very, very, very telling that in a day where people's loyalties are quickly becoming goldfish, as that woman, what was her name? Hogshead. She wrote that book about 13-second memory. It's been about 15 years since I read her book, but she details how she did studies on people's attention and how electronics minimize people's recall, their ability to take things from short-term and put them in long-term memory. And so with that kind of inability to process information from short-term memory to long-term memory, there's no sense of loyalty. But the biggest one that you find is with the older generations, their brand loyalty, whether it's to their cable television subscription, their baseball team, their shopping label preferences, no matter how diluted with crazy engine oil components. You know, I mean, butter is no longer butter, it's now engine oil with a yellow dye and creamy substance. So factor those things into it, but they're still loyal, they're still devoted. So there are advantages to breaking with loyalty, you know, recognizing when something's bad, and it ties into the reference about good money after bad. But there is something to be said that when a character that's a bipolar, you know, individual becomes very fixated, whereas the rest of society is as fickle and as, you know, willing to bend, it's kind of like, okay, well, you're loyal to poison, but you're not loyal to stability. Okay, yeah, it's an odd twist.
My peace and quiet more than I value cute shits, fellows, and a penis. Plus, they all want to dominate you, and when they do, they often lose respect for you. Moving on, Indian housewives own about 11% of the world's gold, surpassing the reserves of the United States, IMF, Switzerland, and Germany.
So when they say 11% of India, keep in mind, this is something that is very underreported. I mean, it's there if you look it up. And that is, India also, everybody talks about China's population being over 1 billion people. India's population also is over 1 billion people. 11% of 1 billion. I'll let you do the math to figure out how many 100 million that is. Now it makes sense when they say 11% holds more gold than all of the combined reserves of the International Monetary Fund. Switzerland, which is notorious for their Swiss bank accounts. Germany, less so. Liechtenstein, you know, now most people would think Liechtenstein as being your tax haven for gold and, you know, stuff like that, but they're not on the list. But United States, International Monetary Fund, Switzerland, Germany. So 11% of of Indian housewives hold the world's gold, surpassing those nation states and those government-funded organizations.
But it's in scrap jewelry and needs to be melted down and purified. Gold is done.
And the image he has is that attractive Bollywood actress that was very popular about 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember her name. I just remember seeing her and thinking, wow, she's a very attractive woman. But she's very heavily adorned with gold, you know, on her forehead, on her cheek, rings, on her fingers, multiple bracelets, multiple necklaces. So they're very gold focused, apparently. Maybe that's where the original gold digger term came from. I have no idea.
Well, they'll last for years, but it goes for decades at a time where it's sideways. It's competing with other assets like houses, Bitcoin, and stocks as a store of value. And while it's the top asset right now, Bitcoin will surpass it one day in market cap. Number 3 Massimo says that every school should have mandatory classes like doing taxes, sewing, oil and tire changes, basic first aid, and cooking.
All of you that are older, such as myself, will know this has already been a reality. we had these classes. They were wood shop, they were metal shop, they were auto shop, they were home economics. When I went into high school, we had it was based on a quarter system, but for freshmen, they had a core curriculum that the first class of every day was 6 weeks in length, and that 6 weeks was focused on one of those disciplines, wood shop. We had 6 weeks of wood shop. We had 6 weeks of metal shop. In fact, in my metal shop class, we took metal strips, used a mold, bent the mold into a spiral circle. Then we had to make a certain number of them. Then we took a designated of these spirals and set it into another mold, and we welded this into a shallow dish, open air dish. And then we took the the 5 dishes and took a center post, made arms, and then connected the arms to the 5 shallow dish and put the 6th dish on top and a base. And we had to weld it all together, put it together, and it had to rotate evenly. And we created, in that 6-week period, a Lazy Susan. I don't know, I suspect my mother still has it. If she does, great. If she doesn't, that's all right. I'm not going to be all that busted up. But in 30 plus years, it's something that I still remember having built. Our home ec class, we had to make crepes, we had to make mayonnaise, we had to do sewing. There was a whole list of things that we had to do. And the other programs, the wood shop and whatnot, I don't recall if auto shop was part of that 6-week thing, but I remember taking that also in high school. But those things are defunded along with the arts and the music programs, and those things need to be restored. I mean, people pay enough in property taxes, they need to at least see some value put into it if they're paying for it.
Great, but how would fast food places like Hell's car maintenance guys and the Gap make any money? Or they could learn those skills from their family. But I think that financial and digital literacy are a must these days. But I'm beginning to think it doesn't matter, as no one is going to have any money, and even if they do, they can't buy a car or house. Plus, it seems to be impossible getting tablets away from the current generations. Up next, speaking of learning something, kids spend 13 years in school, and 54% of American adults can't even read at the grade 6 education level.
I've made reference to this in the past. Kate Brown, before she left office in Oregon, signed an order stating that mathematics and literacy were no longer requirements for an individual to qualify for graduation. So this hits home regionally because Washington also has implemented something similar. And this is not just limited to high school. They've removed the bar exam from law school, from those who are desiring to be lawyers. I can't remember what it was, but this was over a year ago, a year and a half ago, that I uploaded a video about this that documented the plans to end the bar exam. So you no longer know whether or not your lawyer is competently trained. As a corollary, California has a apprenticeship program, which in itself would be beneficial because you're getting the hands-on practical knowledge direct from a mentor. But I don't know that Oregon and or Washington have a similar setup to compensate for the lack of a bar exam. And this ties into the eradication of not just the STEM programs in schools, but also the talented and gifted programs that were removed or de-incentivized in the Seattle schools over the last year.
It's not about education, but instead it's all about indoctrination. They need someone to follow orders in the corporate beer founding pens. Or at least they did until outsourcing and AI started taking all those jobs away. Now school is just glorified babysitting and make work for female teachers in places where they can smash their students.
He's being tongue-in-cheek to some degree, but there's a lot of direct evidence, as I've made many references to. When you have the infamous McLaren, juvenile, all-boys juvenile detention facility, the counselor, and I always get her name wrong, it's Emily. She's a late 20s, early 30s woman who was sentenced to, 4 or 5 years for providing drugs and alcohol to one of the juvenile detainees. Then you have, as we saw earlier this month, Emily Nutley, the guidance counselor at the all-boys Catholic school in Ohio, get a sweetheart deal for her abuse of students. Then there's the infamous cop who was taking advantage of underage boy students. This is an epidemic, and as I've referenced, Rollo Tomasi keeps a catalog number as to how many it is for the year, and we're already probably, if not up to 50, very close to it for the year. And anybody that does math knows it's 52 weeks in a year, which means we're averaging, at least in the press, 2 per week already for this year. And summer, you see a slowdown because school is out for summer vacation. But that doesn't stop them from resuming their predatory ways in September. So be vigilant. There was a rash of these occurrences in Texas and Arizona. So look into these places if you have family. In particular, you have students, and make certain that they're not actually being groomed by these predatory women teachers in these environments.
Number 15, there's outrage in Germany after an Afghan migrant was arrested for raping an 11-year-old and was released 12 days later only to rape a 13-year-old. Maybe they should let him out because, the third time's a charm. At the very least, deport him. But with Europe's porous borders, he'll probably be back in no time. Or maybe they can punish him the old-fashioned way through castration. What a wonderful alternative to prison. Moving on, this woman says that her sweet old 85-year-old granny told her to open up a separate bank account, put money in, and never tell her husband about it. Does that mean that women have always been like that? Yes, they have. I don't have any issues with women having their own money in bank accounts, but I have an issue with them keeping it a secret. That shows they don't respect you enough to tell you. Women will hide money and will still shame a man who wants a prenup and say it's controlling and insecure. Number 7, a teenage boy had his life ruined after a woman he met one night told the cops that he raped her. He spent 10 weeks in police custody with zero evidence. And yet at the same time, more women than ever are going to TikTok and asking, why aren't men approaching them anymore? Or where have all the good men gone? They're in jail because they were hit with false allegations, don't you know? Unfortunately, women get off on the power trip doing this sort of thing to innocent guys. Up next, Isabella says she doesn't have a Lonely Fools account, and some simp says that a lot of men wouldn't have a problem marrying an OF girl. The men that aren't insecure about it. Only the thirsty incel virgins or men with no self-respect would marry a digital whore. Here's the simp in question, and ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you his throne, the comfy chair. Looks like socialist men are willing to share everything, including their wingmen. Number 9, this woman has undergone massive lip injections and now has difficulty eating and drinking. Does that include swing schwangs too? On the bright side of this on Halloween, if she wears orange, she can pass for a goldfish. Who would find a prolapsed poop shoot opening on a woman's face attractive? Then again, you know that most guys would probably try it at least once. Also, why are her eyebrows so far apart? Maybe they didn't have the patience for her stupidity and tried to run away.
What time is it?
Moving on, half of South Africa's population is 100% dependent on the welfare state. Can we get that to 100% already so the system can collapse?
Yeah.
Once they get rid of the white farmers or they leave the country.
On social media posts, I've made reference to a quote that is, it's not a direct quote, but essentially it's I will stop the motor of the world. the John Galt statement from Atlas Shrugged, where in anger he storms out of the 20th Century Motor Company after the man who founded the company died, and his children inherited it and implemented a communist style that men who had families would work less hours and receive more pay. Men who were single would work more hours and receive less pay. And that quote-unquote equitable distribution, those who, of need would get, that mentality. John Galt said, essentially, I refuse to work for for another man, that he's not a slave to someone else. I have taken that message and posted it on social media over the last few years as an appeal, as an effort to reveal what is going on to others. And of course, literary and cinematic characters are designed to have an appeal to society that makes them enigmatic, that makes them compelling to follow. And whether or not I've inspired anybody to follow, that's not my goal. I don't want anybody to follow. I want each of you to lead your own lives and be productive and successful, and to do it in such a manner that does not require the state to provide permission and, by threat of force. That is what it ultimately comes down to, is anything with the government is done by threat of force. You will get a fishing license, or you will be threatened by violence. You will be detained as an animal in a cage. You will have potentially weapons drawn on you if you refuse to participate in their circus show. And you have to ask yourself, are you a man or a beast? I keep these chickens caged up. And you could say I'm a hypocrite for keeping them chained up, or caged up rather. I don't like to chain them up, but there's a reason for that as well. I keep them caged up for their safety. The cats have free reign of this place to a certain degree. They can go onto the porch, but only to a pre-established perimeter. These actions are done to protect them because, for lack of a better descriptor, they are lesser beings. They are lower ranking on the food chain. If I let these chickens go, predators would come along and snatch them up, ending their short lives. So when I keep them caged, it is for their protection. You are being caged not for your protection, but for some false sense of security that's provided to the state by locking you up. And that has to be challenged. And that is the reason that I address you to be your own John Galt, to stop the motor of the world. They need your permission to lock you up. They need your acceptance of their bullying, of their criminality, to take your money by force. And if we're going to be paying these taxes and not have them result in the benefit of society as they promised, as I mentioned already about the property taxes funding the schools and not actually delivering on that, that it has now become nothing more than an institution for propaganda. It is not just your right, it is your responsibility to say no. Even in the Planet of the Apes, Caesar said no. Once that, he refused to be their entertainment, their servant, their slave. ask yourself, are you man or beast? If you're willing to be the beast, then yes, as Sandman referred to, there's that side chair in the hotel room that is designed for the observer to watch. Whether your cage is actual concrete and steel bars or a mental prison, it doesn't matter. It's still a prison, and you have to look at yourself and wonder what it is you are doing that imprisons yourself. What levels of cooperation are you taking that you're allowing that remove your ability to freely operate and build yourself? I mean, obviously, you can't take from others because that's theft, but you have to do for yourself as much as possible. Hence the emphasis in the past and still on acquiring skills and abilities and resources. Because the more independent you become, the faster you can remove yourself from being their slave, and the faster you can remove yourself from being their slave, the faster the system can be broken, and maybe then we can get back to restoring a more natural, a more balanced, a more harmonious connection to our world and to our communities.
Their currency will collapse and they'll starve. The ANC is driving out all the productive people, and then they'll shame and blame whites for abandoning them. Meanwhile, they're just changing the laws to take their property without compensating them for doing so. Communism always ends in violence and starvation, don't you know? Number 11, move over teachers and preachers because now...
So there is a phraseology, and it's colloquially, certain words I have a struggle with. They're commonly referred to, alright? I was in a crime scene class several years ago, and the instructor was a former worked in the pathology office for the state of Florida, and she conducted the crime scene classes on blood spatter patterns and fingerprint lifting and all of that wonderful stuff. And she was talking to the actual law enforcement staff that were in attendance. As I was a private investigator, the conversation wasn't really focused on me because mine was private versus them being public. And when it came to funding, she said, why not use drug money? Which is the common referred inside baseball phrasing for civil asset forfeiture. And if you're not familiar with civil asset forfeiture, look it up. What it is when you are pulled over or you have an interaction with law enforcement and they make the presumptions, and they don't have to have any, the way it's codified is this: if you have cash on you, they will seize it because it's, in their mind, it's only people that are drug dealers or drug users carry large quantities of cash. And whether you're traveling with $50 or $5,000, it doesn't make a difference. It's the fact that it's liquid, they take it, they put it into their general fund, and that's how they buy their, snazzy Hummers or whatever. They acquire enough via civil asset forfeiture or drug money. But it's not drug money, it's theft of private individuals' private money. Church volunteer, I made a video about this 2 months ago. This is the mother who seduced her son's friend while volunteering at a church. So I made, we spent the majority of March detailing these predatory women almost every day, doing heinous, evil acts, from using letter openers to ending newborns to volunteer church mothers, anything they're able to do. And this woman is smiling in her 5'2" mugshot. Natalie Sorrells, Heath, Texas. And I made a reference to this already, that Texas had a large amount of teachers, not just teachers, obviously, but, and this was in May, so this is not even 2 months ago. Sentenced to 5 years in prison after assaulting her son's friend. Not only are your schools not safe, which we were already well aware, now your churches, which to some degree a lot of people were already aware, but you can't even trust your neighborhood mother to not make inappropriate acts. And there was the case of the stepmother. Oh, he's just like you used to be, in reference to when the husband walked in on the act and caught what was going on. It's a very disgusting world we live in, and the faster that you can remove yourself from it and become independent, the better off you're going to be. Isolation is not always the best way to handle it, but swimming in a vat of poison is only going to taint and contaminate you further to the point of being ended.
Even church leaders are smashing the kids. This one is going away for 5 years after having sex with a 13-year-old.
Now, when they say 5 years, the joke is 18 months. They do the sentence for 5 years, and then as long as this individual does what they're supposed to do in prison for a period of time, each jurisdiction is different. Some it's 18 months, some it's 36 months, but regardless, whatever your state's statutes and standards are on this, and it's something you can look up on Fastcase, it's something you can look up with an AI and get a working idea as to what the real timeline will be. She won't serve the full 5 years. The big question is, number one, will she be required to report, as a sex offender? Will she be required to report to a probation officer? Furthermore, will she be restricted from interacting with children from that point forward? And finally, will she be restricted from accessing her own children, because that's what she did. She weaponized her own children to gain access to another child. So if those 4 points, I believe that's what it was, if those 4 points aren't addressed and aren't enforced, then this is a mockery. It's not justice. It's just for show.
But what I really want to know is, why does she look so happy in this photo? Probably because she knows that there are hardly any consequences. It says that she's going to serve 5 years, but they rarely serve more than a fraction of that time. They also led the story with church volunteer to downplay what she did. Up next, speaking of grape, in Belgium, another Afghan man assaults a girl at a swimming pool, and his lawyer argues that a conviction would ruin his future, and that he never lived with a woman before. I wouldn't be surprised if that lawyer or the judge was a woman. If you want to know what type of culture stands behind them, this Muslim...
It's easy to make the presumption or the assumption that it's a woman judge, because in Emily Nutley's case, Jennifer Branch was the judge that gave her the light sentence. But in Angela Yuramova's case, where Daniel Pearson was wrongfully locked up for over a month and kept away from his family over the false allegation, that was Stephen Kaur, a man who, gave her the kid glove sentence of weekends only for 2 years. This is the reason that I warn society that vigilantism is going to finally start ramping up. Luis Mangione may have picked the wrong target, but his methods, it's kind of hard to argue with him. Oh, but how can you say that about ending somebody? You can't tell me that somebody such as Stephen Kaur, who's making a simp ruling, needs to be in that position. He's criminal in his ruling. She deprived of not just a man, but a father of his liberty, of his freedom. She deprived a family of their father and of their husband. She deprived an individual of their means of taking care of that family, and his name is now forever associated with that false allegation, and whether he gets, justice or gets society already turned against him. Within that month of being locked up, the media went against him, the law enforcement went against him, the courts went against him, the community, the job went against him, the church went against him. All of these things that are pillars of the community all rallied behind this vile, evil woman. She needed to be strung up and stretched as a warning that this witch hunt will not be allowed to continue. But instead, she's celebrated and rewarded. So when somebody says, well, I wouldn't be surprised that if it'd be a woman judge that'd make it. No. Men are just as guilty in their subservience to this behavior because they rationalize it as, oh, I'm going to get points. I'm going to get goody points. I'm going to get gold stuff. Remember that woman that made fun of her husband by stating that she was going to give him gold stars, and each gold star tally had reached a certain point resulted in certain rewards? That's how these men, these weak men, these spineless men, these sensitive men, rationalize their vile behavior. It's unacceptable, and it has to be called out. And if it's been called out, and it's documented that it's been called out, then it has to be escalated, through the steps. It has to be prosecuted, it has to be tried, it has to be ruled, and if it's still not being remedied, if it's not being corrected, then you're going to see the rise of a Luis Mangione, most likely, at some point. Somebody's going to cross the Rubicon, and they're going to say, I'm done with the BS. I'm unleashing the fury.
Mueller says that it's okay to grade non-believer women to humiliate them. Even the women in their culture encourage this sort of behavior. Where are the feminists to speak up about this? Number 13, these are the types of women out there calling men insults these days. But the more important question to ask is, would you smash either of them? I would only if I was drunk. Then they would look like supermodels to me. Either that or with a very large cinder block. Just kidding. I don't know who the one on the left is, but she looks like one of those Picasso paintings. I'm sure that most of you would, but only with the lights off. Then they all look the same as long as they aren't fat. Moving on, seeing stuff like this makes me think I'm going crazy. With Gloucestershire opening up their homes to more than 700 Ukrainians. I guess they think that people in Britain are stupid enough to believe that Ukrainians are actually Somalians. You know that this Ukrainian, if he had a lighter complexion, they wouldn't have let into England. And if they did, the people would complain to the government. At this point, it's just a humiliation ritual for the locals. Number 15, here's a great idea for date night. Take your goth girlfriend to the cemetery to show her a democrat voting block. But if she's a hardcore goth chick, then she's probably already got her own hearse, and her house is across the cemetery. So you're probably going to have to do better than that. But if you do take her, then make sure you actually put a I voted sticker on every single tombstone. For many guys out there, the question is, how do you get a goth girl in the first place? Up next, this little boy ended himself after being tortured by sick bullies over his glasses and teeth. A female student and other girls urged Sammy here to use a rope to end himself. And then later on, they took pictures of his open casket at his funeral. And the main female student that urged him to do this was seen laughing at her phone. Almost like she got a trophy picture or something. And you just know that she won't be punished for it. And that they'll be the so-called real victims being given free therapy if they want it. Numbers...
Hold on. Anyone who's been a parent can connect to this story, this tragedy. Now granted, I have my own issues as to the parents for letting their son remain in that school with that constant bullying, because there was a pattern of behavior that was escalatory and wasn't being addressed. And I don't want to say that that they're directly culpable, complicit, but there is a level that could have been done to avoid this. And it doesn't even have to be as drastic as homeschooling. There could have been other actions taken. All right. The other point that can be considered is this little boy, this should never have happened. But the best way to strike back at it, all the police departments have yearbooks. If you weren't aware of this, the police departments of every jurisdiction have yearbooks dating back as far back as they can of those who attended school, so that they have an inventory of who has been in the community in what year and blah blah blah, what they look like, what their name is, all that stuff. This is going to be a very moral ambiguous tactic that I'm going to present to you. There's nothing that says you can't take this yearbook listing of the names and pictures of these individuals, of these girls who are taking pictures, because if one's guilty, they're all guilty. Let them be tried in the court of public opinion, upload who it is that they are, who their parents are, and blast them as being responsible for this little boy's death. Put it out there so that every time somebody types in, Jane Doe's name into a search engine, their name comes up as responsible for the ending of this little boy. As I said, it's going to be considered morally ambiguous, maybe even questionable. But the bottom line is, that is the level of evil you're fighting against, is a society that bends the knee to this level of apathy, this level of evil. And unless you're willing to push back at it, call it out, demand an accounting, it's not going to get better. As a parent, you cannot allow this to be the standard for your children. This can't be the example for them to follow, to emulate, to be celebrated. There has to be consequences. And, but that'll impact the rest. This little boy doesn't have a rest of his life because of these evil girls. For what reason do they deserve a rest of their life? Their lives shouldn't even exist because of what they did to him. They need to be in juvenile detention for the rest of their youth until they've demonstrated an ability to operate within society. They are monsters. They are possessed, for lack of a better descriptor. This is not a call towards a religious or preternatural or supernatural possession. I'm stating it as a catch-all for what it is that is being allowed to propagate amongst our youth and amongst girls and women specifically, this level of rewarded criminality.
17, if a liberal from 1960 showed up in 2025, he'd be considered a conservative. And if a liberal from 2025 showed up in 1960, he would be considered a dangerous lunatic. And of course, he would be locked up in an asylum as well. They still had those back then, and they need to bring those back today, as a deterrent to crazy behavior. Instead, we have today's liberals running the state like it's the mental asylum itself. At some point, they'll have to get locked up, or civilization will collapse. Moving on, if you have a daughter and this is the guy she brings home, how would you greet him? Joke's on him, though, because I've already got the magnet for Breaking Bad rigged up in my garage. Instead of blaming her for bringing him home, you should blame yourself, because if you raised her right, then this guy never would have been in your sight. You could also empty some buckshot from your boomstick into him, and no one would know the difference, because he's already got so much lead in him.
Yep.
Number 19, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see this? I thought he's a billionaire and they're competing to see which one he picks. Other people say that there are 8 potential lawsuits in the making.
It's a spa or hot tub, circular, and there are 8 women sitting on the upper ring, and a man sitting in the lower portion, more submerged in the water. I figured he might have peed in the hot tub, hence them sitting on the outer ring and him sitting in the lower ring, because, I thought that was funnier.
or that they don't have a burning desire for him, and that's why they aren't really fully in the hot tub with him, and are probably just hoping that he leaves really soon. This can also be a nice old man with all of his granddaughters. Hey, you never know. Up next, this article is so pathetic. Sean Galloway says that men are struggling, and the opposite.
Scott Galloway, he's a New York University professor of business, I believe it is. I became aware of him around 2015, 2016. I don't agree with him 100%, but he does have some good insights as, why doesn't desktop 3D printing revolutionize domestic manufacturing? Because China is the world's 3D printer. Those types of comments are direct and correct. But his takes on, and then, Alexa, buy, Whole Foods, and then he starts working it through his mind as to Amazon's eventually going to buy Whole Foods, and I think that's what ended up happening. So he's right on those two examples. But when it comes to boys and men, he's missing the boat. He's too far insulated in his ivory tower to understand what it is that's actually happening. And he's too willing, because of his professorship, to bend the knee to the gynocacistocracy, the rule by the most incompetent women, or the most corrupt women, and their agents. So the headline is Scott Galloway, and then there's another woman, men are struggling, what does it mean for women? BBC's Patty Kay speaks with Professor Scott Galloway about the state of young men in the U.S. and how it affects young women. So, again, right off the bat, men and boys are suffering and struggling, women most impacted. It's as arrogant and as, stupid as the Hillary Clinton. Women are the biggest victims of war after, with their, no. Forget the men that died, forget the men that were maimed and lost body parts. Let's focus on the women who stayed behind the lines and divorced their soldier husbands, or cheated on them while they were, conscripted, which is another word for slavery. It's absurd. So this ties into being pleased to see the Boy Scouts gathering last night at the park for their meeting, and seeing that it was boys. There were fathers in attendance. As to the reason they weren't directing the meeting, I don't know. If anybody expresses interest for me to look into it, I shall. But I've got other things I'm working on that's not the priority. The fact that I think it was all boys that were in uniform, I was very pleased, because I've commented about it in the past that they've been hijacked by the gynocacistocracy.
Asks, what does that mean for women? As if the only thing that matters is women and then men's wishes don't count, and we are disposable. I don't like Galloway. He's a woke male feminist pretending to be neutral.
Yeah.
Women have made a temporary alliance with the betas to destroy the alphas. It seems to me that whenever men are suffering, women always try to figure out a way to make it all about them. Number 21 now, people using images of Alvin and the Chipmunks to blackpill men about the 80-20 rule. More like 95-5 rule these days. Let's not kid ourselves. The Chipettes only want Alvin's nuts. Poor Theodore can't bust any nuts because he's an incel.
Yep.
It makes me wonder which came first, this or home bath. I should make a similar comparison with things like G.I. Joe. You just know that Duke and Flint are at the top, and poor old cross country can't get any cooch. Moving on, lefty environmentalists like this one says that owning a pet is doing more damage to the environment than you realize. It's true.
By owning a pet, you are doing more damage to the environment than you might realize. Truth-telling about pets can be a painful process, but cats and dogs, particularly, are having a devastating impact on the planet. Alright. I don't know. Perhaps. But I do know that they provide quite a quality companionship.
fishing the ocean so some 300-pound land whale can feed Friskies to her half a dozen cats. Pets make sense if you live on a farm or small town, and you can use them to catch rodents around your house and keep the invaders away. But city dogs that get professional grooming and walk docking services are just too much. Number 23 ponds or orcas are roaming migrant boats off of Spain and Portugal, and scientists don't know why. Looks like they're Europe's last line of defense, and they failed.
They really just were going for us, says sailor Victoria Morris. There was definitely no playing.
My guess is that the migrants were throwing stuff at the orcas, and they never forgot. So now they're destroying the ships. But orcas probably understand that if Europe falls, they'll be next, because Islam is going to hunt them down to extinction. Up next, a single mom who beat cancer 4 times was ended by some random bullet fired at her house. What makes a bullet random? Also no mention of the name of the person releasing that random bullet, and why. I bet that it just randomly fired itself. It was random because the kid says he accidentally fired his weapon while cleaning it. And once it went off, he kept cleaning his boomstick, and then oops, accidentally released a second random bullet. Number 25 and the last one, the wall was brutal with this one. Here's 28-year-old Lord. She looks like 80-year-old Marina Abramovich. She's a one-hit wonder, literally hitting the wall. But seriously, was it just the wall? It looks like a whole building fell on top of her. This is what happens when you have bad genes and hard living. Lots of meth dicks, too. It's also partially called being British. A lot of women from there age off a cliff. So that's it for another Memes of the Week. Please give this video a like to push it up in the algorithm, and so new viewers can find it.